Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
They call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
We got a big one for you tonight in our Easter Sunday special. My Mark Meets guest is radio and TV legend Neil the Doctor Fox. An absolute legend of broadcasting. He'll tell his story. He'll discuss what it's like working with Simon Cowell and the future of the music industry, the charts, and will radio still be with us in 100 years' time? In the big question, can Labour win the next election? Plus, reacting to the big stories of the day, my all-star panel, including journalist Andre Walker, comedian Francine Lewis, and actress and reality star Daniela Westbrook. And it's Sunday, so we want your Sunday selfies. Mark at gbnews.uk. Plus, in my big opinion, COVID is now an industry, an ideology, and a cult. I'll see you after the headlines with Miranda.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening. The top stories from the GB newsroom. A cabinet minister has hit back at criticism from the Archbishop of Canterbury over government plans to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. It's after the leader of the Church of England, Justin Welby, said the proposals raised serious ethical questions. However, Brexit Opportunities Minister Jacob Rees-Mogg says the deal will help protect migrants from people traffickers and the dangerous journey across the Channel. In his Easter sermon, the Archbishop of Canterbury said the plans are the opposite of the nature of God.
This season is also why there are such serious ethical questions about sending asylum seekers overseas. The details are for politics and politicians. The principle must stand the judgment of God, and it cannot.
Ukrainian soldiers have appeared to defy a Russian ultimatum to surrender in the besieged city of Mariupol. Elsewhere in the country, shelling in Ukraine's second biggest city, Kharkiv, has left 5 people dead and 13 injured. Moscow claims the steelworks is now the only area of Mariupol not under its control. A 64-year-old woman has become the first person to be convicted over the Just Stop Oil protests. Catherine McLean admitted aggravated trespass for her part in blockading a fuel depot in Thurrock last Wednesday. She was ordered to pay £409 in fines and costs at Chelmsford Magistrates Court. 2 other defendants denied the charges and were remanded into custody. So far, 23 people have been charged. Police are investigating after an unverified video appears to show Nicola Sturgeon breaching Scotland's COVID laws. The First Minister is seen apparently not wearing a mask during a visit to a barber's in South Lanarkshire yesterday. A spokesman for the SNP says Miss Sturgeon accidentally entered the shop without a face covering before putting one on. Police Scotland say they've received a complaint which is currently being assessed. And the Queen's grandchildren and great-grandchildren have attended the annual Easter Sunday service. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge led members of the royal family to St George's Chapel in Windsor, joined by 2 of their children, 8-year-old Prince George and Princess Charlotte, who's 6. The Queen, who turns 96 on Thursday and who's been experiencing mobility issues, didn't attend, but it's thought she spent the day surrounded by family. Well, on TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Back now to Mark.
It's Sunday, April the 17th, and a very happy Easter Sunday to one and all. We've got a bumper bank holiday Easter special for you tonight. My Mark Meets guest is radio and TV legend Neil Fox, otherwise known as Dr. Fox. We'll talk to Neil about TV talent shows, working with Simon Cowell, the changing face of the music charts, and what the future holds for radio and television. In the big question, with Keir Starmer now ahead of Boris Johnson in the polls, can Labour win the next election? We'll hear from all sides on that one. In the news agenda, with my amazing panel, should the church stay out of politics? Could men be trusted to take the contraceptive pill? Good luck with that one. Do we get enough sleep? And does Britain still love Marks and Spencer? Do you like them? Let me know. Mark at gbnews.uk. Tackling these big issues will be my amazing Easter Sunday panel. Presenter and journalist Andre Walker. Comedian and children's author. She's got a bestseller out now. She'll tell us about it shortly. Francine Lewis. And reality star and actress Daniela Westbrook. And of course, it's Selfie Sunday. And I want to get to know you better every Sunday night. So send in pictures of yourselves right now. Mark at gbnews.uk. Here are a few we didn't have time for last week. This is Andy. What a handsome devil he is. We've got Brian watching the show. We've also got Karina and Oliver. So many brilliant viewers and their pets. So get your selfies in right now. And if they've got an Easter theme, all the better. We've got some serious topics to get through, but fun is a big priority as well. After all, it's a bank holiday weekend, and the sun even made a welcome appearance today. Remember, we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. So let's have a debate, let's have a laugh, and let's have a few surprises. And we'll start with this. Welcome to Bonkers Britain. Holidaymakers in Cornwall and East Lindsey are being urged to wear face masks on the beach as the warm weather is expected to continue this Easter bank holiday weekend. Local councils are advising people to take extra care when visiting popular coastal resorts as COVID has, quote, not disappeared. As thousands are expected to flock to beaches to bask in the good weather, Cornwall Council have asked people to wear a face covering and exercise social distancing whilst visiting the southern seaside resort. Welcome to hell. It's Easter Sunday, of course, and we are celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ, although he may now be regretting his return. Added to this madness about masks on the beach, a top NHS leader has urged the return of mask wearing across the board and social distancing because, quote, COVID isn't over. Well, I've got news for you, baby. It will never be over, which is why living with the virus and accepting it is all we can do now, as we, of course, do with all other ailments. And I'll take no lectures from NHS chiefs. Our frontline doctors, nurses, porters, cleaners, you name it, are incredible. But the management effectively turned the National Health Service into the National COVID Service for 2 years, ignoring far worse illnesses like cancer. With a waiting list some fear will reach 12 million, the health impact from the NHS reaction to the virus will, in my view, be far worse than the virus itself. And the impact will often be on younger people in the prime of their life, like a young mother, for example, who wasn't able to get that lump checked out and who must now say goodbye to her family. The messaging from COVID zealots is universal and almost from a script. The pandemic is far from over. That is what they say. Not much of a pandemic, is it? One that you've got to keep reminding people is there. Of course it's still there because these people never want it to end. COVID is now an industry. Think of the billions that organisations around the world are making from this potentially dangerous, sure, but largely mild virus. Vaccine manufacturers, mask manufacturers, the producers of PPE equipment, testing companies, ventilation units, the outlets that make those horrific plastic screens for shops and offices, the billions of litres of sanitising fluid, which I think is actually bad for your health. It's all a total money spinner and a racket. And of course, health bosses obsessed with COVID were the ultimate lockdown cheerleaders with their effective pursuit of zero COVID for almost 2 years, which has placed our health systems under such strain and will do for many years to come. And having demanded policies that absolutely smashed the economy and burdened it with what will eventually be another £1 trillion worth of debt, they've actually damaged the cash cow that pays for everything they want. You see, you can't have it both ways. Have your lockdowns if you want to, but as I've said, since March 2020, you will pay the price. It's your bed, baby. You're going to have to lie in it. Oh, but let's just borrow some more money to pay for more COVID measures to protect the NHS. That's what they'll be saying. And bankrupt the nation? And add further to the mountain of debt which we hand to future generations, some of whom haven't even been born yet? How dare you? These are the nice people, are they? The people who want more restrictions, who want you to wear a mask on the beach, who won't let COVID go. Do me a favour. COVID is now an industry, an ideology, and a cult. And I have no words for those people wandering around on their own on a nice sunny day like today, wearing a mask outside. They've been drinking the COVID Kool-Aid and they've been brainwashed. I'm not sure there's much hope for them. At least it's easier now to see who the numpties are. And this was the problem with 3 weeks to flatten the curve. If you comply to make it end, your compliance means it never will. When we agreed to these unprecedented and experimental measures of shutting down the economy and locking healthy people at home, we didn't realise what we were relinquishing. We didn't realise we were opening Pandora's box and allowing technocrats and tunnel vision public health officials to get their foot in the door of our daily lives. We didn't realise we were giving up the very essence of a free society. If you're being told to wear masks and socially distance in this glorious weather, and with a variant of COVID in Omicron that's milder than a pint of John Smith's with a lemonade top, then just think what draconian instructions will await us in the winter months. And as usual, the politicians that set these bizarre rules don't follow them. Take a look at this. Oh dear, Nicola Sturgeon reported to the police over COVID law violation. She wasn't wearing a mask. The halo has slipped for Mrs. Sturgeon, and the mask by the looks of it. Now, I would love nothing more than to be able to talk about something else. If I'm honest, it's Easter, and I'd just love to show you some bunny rabbit videos like this one. Gorgeous stuff. But I'm hopping mad about the fact that we're still being dictated to, still hearing the siren calls for more economically and societally damaging social controls. An entire generation of politicians, public servants, so-called health officials, and some brainwashed members of the public don't want this to end. Of course, most of the media don't want it to end either. It's clear to me that the cure was worse than the illness itself, and it didn't work anyway. But still, the madness continues. Have we learnt nothing? Clearly not. Show me one country in the world that didn't lock down, that didn't socially distance, that didn't mask, which has a disproportionately high COVID death toll. It doesn't exist. So why is there such an appetite for masks and distancing and lockdowns? Because we've learnt over the last 2 years, and of course history has taught us the same, that some people just love control. They love telling people what to do. Democracy and freedom, as we've discovered, are precious and fragile things for which we must fight. If you accept masks on the beach in April, where does this end? Do you want to live like this forever? Living under state control, exposed to the latest wave of public health policy? I'm not sure you do, judging by the brilliant pictures of revelry from this weekend. Take a look at this story in the Mail. A very good Friday. Revellers hit the town as they enjoy sunny 4-day weekend. But some Easter bunnies will have sore heads today. Good luck to them. Having a brilliant time, and rightly so, having been caged on and off for 2 years like calves in a pen. Let's make this weekend, the Easter bank holiday, a test case for a return to unadulterated human interaction, to connection, to freedom, to humanity, to fun, to risk, to danger, to joy. Remember that? Joy? Choose life this Easter. Now, back to those bunny videos. A very happy Easter to one and all. And I've got 3 Easter bunnies on my panel tonight. So excited to welcome the amazing broadcaster and presenter Andre Walker, reality star and actress Daniela Westbrook, and comedian, impersonator, and now published author Francine Lewis. Great to have all 3 of you with me. First of all, let me ask you, Daniela, would you wear a mask on the beach this weekend?
Well, I'll probably need one, but...
Never.
Yeah, everyone seems to think so. But no, I don't see the point of it. I don't like tan lines, Mark, so it wouldn't be any good for me.
Did you have, Daniela, a position on masks in the course of the pandemic?
I just did, what we was told to do, like most other people did, stay home, wear a mask if you're going somewhere and stuff. So I did that, but I totally agree with everything you just said there, and I think it is a real shame. Like you said, it's such a strain on the NHS, who just was put under so much pressure. And I remember I was living in Liverpool at the time, and there was just, places being shut down for makeshift morgues because millions of people were going to die, and it didn't happen, thank goodness. But it was a lot of scaremongering at the time. There has been a lot of COVID cases, obviously, and people deaths.
Sure.
But, I just can't see people wearing masks on the beach.
Well, that's right. I mean, Andre Walker, there are no COVID deniers here. It's a very nasty virus. It's potentially fatal to some people, and it's a tragedy that we've lost people who succumbed to it. But here we are, 2 years on. We've got the Omicron variant. The nation is largely vaccinated. It's time to move on. I mean, masks on the beach on a sunny day like today, I need some help with that.
Well, I mean, that's not the most ludicrous thing that I heard. There was a university that said that we should continue lockdown until 90% of the public had had a 90% effective vaccination. If we applied that to the BCG, we would still have a tuberculosis lockdown in Britain. That just shows you how utterly ridiculous it is. But what upsets me, Mark, is the rank hypocrisy. Because let's remember, we had Keir Starmer and Boris Johnson partying hard. You've got Nicola Sturgeon continually not wearing a mask. Mark Drakeford, he didn't break the law, but remember the Diwali dancing on the day when he was calling for a lockdown and social distancing? And of course, let's not forget our friends in Northern Ireland. Michelle O'Neill, the Deputy First Minister, attended the funeral of an IRA Army Council member with 3,000 people all not wearing masks. And so what is happening is very much do as I say, not as I do. And I think these people don't believe it themselves, so why the hell should we comply?
Yes, I mean, I just wonder where the calls for these sorts of measures now, 2 years into the pandemic, is... I don't know, really. I just think they need to read the room, don't they, Francine?
Well, as Janet Street Poulter would say, it's bloody ridiculous. I'm not covering this beautiful face, although I did love lockdown because I hate people. No, it's ridiculous. The only thing I'm wearing on a beach is a bikini. I'm not wearing a mask. I mean, people don't even wear masks indoors anymore. So why would I wear a mask outside in the fresh air? No, I think it is absolutely ridiculous, and I don't think people can comply. I mean, we've been told now, even if you've got COVID, you don't have to isolate anymore. You can still go to work and get on with normal life. And I think we do need herd immunity now. We've all had, most of us have had it at some point. I've had the Omicron not long ago. And it was a very mild cold. I've had worse things in the past. And it's so annoying because you don't get to see a doctor anymore. And there are people with really, really serious illnesses now that are just, getting pushed aside. So, no, we need to stop this and move on.
Yes, making us wear masks at the seaside, sons of beaches. What do you think? Mark at gbnews.uk. Have the health nutters finally jumped the shark? Mark at gbnews.uk is, of course, the email for your Easter selfies as well. Send in pictures of your good selves. I want to get to know you better. I want to meet you. I want to see you. In fact, I met a lovely couple this weekend in Kent, on the Kent coast. We'll show you a picture of that later in the programme. But get those selfies in. It is Easter Sunday. We're going to have some fun today. Yeah, we've got some lively debates, but we've got plenty of laughs as well. And a special treat for my panel. So I'd like all three of you to take a look underneath your sofa. Let's go back to the panel, and I've got a special Easter surprise.
Oh, wow.
I can't bend over.
That's not what I've heard, Andre.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
I love it.
Absolutely. Now, Daniela, what have you gone for? What have we surprised you with?
A Terry's chocolate orange. Am I allowed to say that as advertising?
You are. Let's get the advertising in. They might send us some freebies.
Terry's chocolate orange.
Other Easter eggs are available.
White chocolate as well, so it's lovely.
Oh, that's really nice. How about you, Francine? What are you rocking tonight?
I've got the orange twirl. So, and do you know something? This is my first Easter egg, so thank you very much.
Oh, well, listen,
Are you a big fan of oranges or something?
Yeah, it's all about orange.
Can I be honest with you? It was 3 for 2 at Tesco.
It's like Alan Partridge, isn't it? Chocolate oranges available from Rawlinson's.
Yeah, basically, we're a start-up here at GB News. We spend the money on great journalism, but not so much on the panellists' provisions. Do you guys have particular memories of Easter? Because I've always loved Easter because I feel that it's Christmas without all the hassle.
Yeah.
I mean, Andre, did you sort of grow up celebrating Easter as a kid?
Well, it's really interesting because quite often my birthday was on Easter Sunday, so that was always quite an interesting thing to do, to have your birthday on the same day as the Easter Bunny. But of course, the Easter Sunday is on a different date every year, so it varies. So my birthday's in a couple of days. Anyway, that's all I've got to say.
Yeah, you got that plug in. Well, look, you can eat all of that egg.
That's fantastic.
It's going to be your birthday in a couple of days' time. We want that egg gone before the end of the show. That's your challenge, Andre. Not much of a challenge. It's a pretty low bar. Let's be honest with you. How about you, Francine? Did you celebrate Easter as a kid?
Do you know what? If I'm being honest, not really. But I make sure I've always celebrated it with my children. And my son is 15, and I still did an Easter hunt for him. Yeah. If he's watching this, he's going to absolutely die. But yeah,
I mean,
I just love
now.
it.
I think it's time he moved on. I'll be honest with you. He's got a wife and kids. I mean, grow up. No, that's lovely. How about you, Daniela? Easter memories?
I remember doing Easter as a child. I remember having a big thing at home with loads of Easter eggs and everything on, because all my mum's people that used to come in a shop used to buy me eggs, so I loved it. I was a big child, though. But yeah, with my kids, I used to do, on Good Friday, do a special breakfast. Then Easter Sunday, we'd do an Easter egg hunt and stuff. We lived in California. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. go to church and stuff. It was good.
Gorgeous stuff. Well, look, we've got a really fun and busy show. We've got a radio and TV legend joining us in the studio. Dr. Fox, Neil Fox, radio presenter, of course.
Wow.
He was a presenter of Pop Idol on ITV with Simon Cowell. He'll talk about the music industry, about radio, about broadcasting. He's got a story to tell. He's here at 10 o'clock. Also, get those Easter selfies in. I want to get to know you better. Mark at gbnews.uk. And will you be wearing a mask on the beach this weekend? What's your reaction to this latest public health directive? Next up, we've got the big question. Will Labour win the next election? See you shortly.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It is Selfie Sunday, and we got some fabulous selfies coming in. Thank you so much for sending them. Let's have a look. Who have we got here? This is Ewan and his cat. He's a handsome devil, as is the cat. OK, how about this? This is Jason. Enjoying the show, Jason. I love your energy and I love your smile. And last but not least, Michaela. Oh, look at that. What a sultry pose. Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Michaela. Lots of reaction coming into my big opinion monologue, which Carl in our digital team is currently editing down into a tweet. It will be available on Twitter at GB News in the next few minutes. This is in relation to a directive from Cornwall Council telling people going to the beach to wear a mask this weekend on the beach. Joseph says, I'm hopping mad. Good evening, Mark. This lunacy isn't just from the local council. It all leads back to the central government in Westminster. Part of the living with COVID strategy unveiled by Boris when he was under pressure is to nudge and push the local councils into taking these draconian measures to give the government political cover. I very much enjoyed your critical thinking on headliners last night in pushing back the narrative on COVID, Rwanda, Twitter censorship, Harry and Meghan, etc. Now apply this critical thinking to other aspects of your journalism. Well, Joseph, I certainly will try. And if I don't, then please hold my feet to the fire because you are my boss. How about this from, somebody that calls himself Silly Git, but I bet you're not. Dear Mark. Oh, it's Nick. It's Nick in Rotherham. Nick, thank you for this. I'm not wearing a mask anymore, but can I have a bubble that just blocks out society completely? Everyone has gone mental. I want no part of it. Get me on Elon's Starship to Mars. I'll be the one with the finger out the porthole. Nick, what a brilliant and delightful email. Put a smile on all of our faces there. And last but not least for now, this is from Dawn. Dear Mark, good evening. What a brilliant rant. Thank you. I used to have sympathy for those that are still so terrified they wear a mask and gloves and sanitize their hands till they're red raw. But I think it's gone on long enough now. I've been living mask-free for over a year and had my first cold a couple of weeks ago. 3 negative lateral flow tests, and my GP was still trying to convince me it was COVID. I laughed in her face. Powerful words. Dawn's not pulling her punches. Love your emails. Love your selfies. Keep those selfies coming in. Mark at gbnews.uk. They can have an Easter flavour or just a picture of your gorgeous visage. It's time now for the big question. And so tonight, can Labour win the next election? That is the conversation that we're going to have. Massive news, actually, for Labour, who are ahead of the Tories in the polls and may potentially enjoy a landslide in the May elections. They could potentially win 800 council seats. If that was replicated in a general election, it would make them the biggest party in Parliament. So, could Keir Starmer be our next Prime Minister? Can Labour win the next election? What do you think? Mark at gbnews.uk. Will you be voting for them? Delighted to welcome Peter Edwards, former editor of Labour List, and Paul Connew, political commentator and former editor of the Sunday Mirror. Also delighted to welcome, I believe, live from the United States, Douglas Carswell, former Conservative MP and one of the founding fathers of Brexit. Let me start with you, Paul Connew. Welcome to the show and great to see you again. Do you think Labour can win the next election?
Yes.
And why would that be?
Will they? It's a different question.
Yeah. And the question is, if there was an election tomorrow, would Labour win?
On the polls at the moment, it would indicate yes, and it would indicate that Boris Johnson would be among those losing their seats. But the local elections and the general election are different fish. So, and it's also a couple of years to go, unless there's an early election, but I think that's less likely now. I think Partygate and the cost of living crisis probably means that Boris Johnson won't be heading to the polls any earlier than he has to.
Well, of course, I'm sure the Prime Minister will fulfil the duration of that term, perhaps not by choice, but in order to get through the pandemic and hope that the economy recovers to a certain degree. You've, of course, been covering Labour politics for decades, Paul. You are the former editor of the Labour-supporting Sunday Mirror newspaper. What do you think Keir Starmer needs to do to get it across the line at the next election?
Well, Keir Starmer's ratings are better than Boris Johnson's, but perhaps not as good as they should be, given that this is a Prime Minister in serious trouble. And, of course, it's anyone's guess whether Boris Johnson survives to lead the Conservatives into the next election anyway. And the next week is going to be an interesting week. And I think if there are more fines for him, and if the May elections are a disaster, then his premiership might not last much beyond the summer.
Yeah, well, of course, that is the great imponderable, isn't it? But assuming, Peter Edwards, that Boris Johnson clings on, which I suspect he will, do you think that Keir Starmer can see off Boris Johnson in a national poll?
Good evening. Happy Easter. Yes, I think Keir Starmer can, but I do agree there's a real risk about reading too much into local authority election results. We've got those council elections coming up in May. Let's look at the national polls. I actually did a little bit of research this evening. Labour's been ahead in pretty much every poll this calendar year since January the 1st, but by around 5 or 10 percentage points. Yet, when Tony Blair, in a different area, in the 12 months before he won the 97 election, he was 10 to 20 points ahead. In some cases, 30 points ahead. So it's great Labour's ahead. And I think Boris Johnson has been politically discredited to a politically fatal extent by Partygate. But Labour does have a lot more to do. And I think it's really got to, having reshuffled the shadow cabinet, now introduce some of these other bigger hitters to the country again, because ultimately politics is a team sport. We've had a lot of focus on lockdown and Partygate on two party leaders, but Labour needs to kind of introduce its shadow cabinet to the whole country and then use that as a basis, as a pitch to the general electorate.
Yes, of course, now joining us live from the United States, Douglas Carswell, former Conservative MP, also the only and first UKIP Member of Parliament as well, one of the people responsible for that successful Brexit result. Well, actually, we just lost Douglas for that nanosecond. We'll get Douglas back very shortly. Paul, to what extent do you think the so-called culture wars will influence the outcome of the next election? Because many people watching this programme would argue that Keir Starmer is on the wrong side of those culture wars by not being able to define what a woman is and other woke issues that really bother many Labour voters.
They will be a feature, but not as heavy as some pundits would actually have you believe. Fundamentally, it's going to be about two essential factors: the cost of living and the leadership of the Conservative Party, whether it's Boris Johnson still there, in which case the Partygate trust factor comes into play, or it's a new Conservative leader trying to establish themselves. Personally, I find it astonishing that the Conservative Party are arguing, or some of them are arguing, that Ukraine means that there cannot be the unseating of the Prime Minister. You need all the more, on the international stage at the moment, a credible leader. And the idea that the Conservative Party can't produce an alternative leader to Boris Johnson, I find amazing, and I can't believe that the likes of Tom Tugendhat and others are sitting there thinking that only Boris Johnson is fit to lead the country. Because if they think that, and a lot of them don't, in their hearts and their heads don't really, then the Conservative Party is in a far worse state than any of us suspected.
Douglas Carswell, delighted that we've got you back online. Can Labour win the next election?
I very much fear that they can. There will be Conservative pundits and commentators who will be hoping that the public will vote on the basis of Ukraine, where I think the Prime Minister has played a blinder, or the vaccine rollout, or delivering Brexit. I think they fundamentally missed the point. I think the next election, and the polls already show this, are going to be decided on the basis of the cost of living. And let's face it, the way in which a supposedly free market Conservative government has handled the economy has not been great. Taxes are up, energy prices are up, people are feeling poor. People are going to feel a lot poorer in the next 6 to 12 months. So I think there's a real danger for the Conservatives that perhaps after 12 or so years in office, they're looking a little tired, they're looking a little bereft of ideas, and frankly, they're running the country in economic terms a little bit like Jeremy Corbyn might have done, with bailouts and handouts and national industrial strategies. So I think there's a real chance that they may find that they try to win the election by talking about Ukraine and other things, but they lose because they're losing the fundamentals. People are feeling poorer, and people are feeling poorer because of bad economic management. And
Could I also suggest, though, that Douglas, that in fact Brexit's reality and Brexit as missold are two very different things, and Brexit disillusion is setting in, not least in the red wall area.
Douglas, do you think that? Douglas, you were the co-founder.
I do think the Conservatives could lose the next election, yes.
Douglas, you were the co-founder of Vote Leave, and of course the first and only UKIP Member of Parliament. Do you think that Brexit is actually a ghostly issue for the Tories, or is it actually the ghost that will haunt Labour, who tried to stop it?
Well, to be honest, I think you've got to remember there's no such thing as gratitude in politics. You can be right about something, but once that thing is behind you and people have factored it in, you can't continue to depend on electoral support for it. Clearly, at the last election, Labour went in trying to undermine and undo Brexit, and they paid a very, very heavy price for that. The Conservatives won the largest majority that they have won since the glory days of Margaret Thatcher. I don't think Keir Starmer is going to want to allow Brexit to be an issue, because it's one of the few things that could actually, I think, blow him badly off course. I suspect that Keir Starmer is already trying to get some of the loony element within the left to keep quiet about some of the culture war issues. I think Labour could be very vulnerable on culture war issues. I suspect Brexit and the culture war are issues that Keir Starmer is going to want to avoid making sort of central to the next election campaign. He's going to want this to be about the cost of living, because frankly, if the next election is decided on the cost of living, it's not going to be great for the Conservatives. The Conservatives, I think, ironically, are probably going to want to make the election about Brexit and Ukraine and rolling out vaccines and culture war issues. But I'm just not sure that that's really going to do it for them.
Well, Peter Edwards, many viewers to this programme are former Labour voters who have told me via email that they will never forgive Labour for trying to reverse the Brexit vote. Do you think that Keir Starmer will be haunted by the ghost of Brexit at the next election?
No, I don't think he will, because ultimately, and I don't agree with Douglas on much, but I think the idea that elections are about the future rather than the successes or failures of the government that's just finished its term is correct. And I think it will be about, especially when you're looking for a change of party, selling that vision of the future. I think Keir Starmer's done the right things more broadly. Think about some of the key interventions he made to get Labour back on track in the first few months after, frankly, the chaos of Jeremy Corbyn's era. Day one, apology over anti-Semitism, try and move forward on Brexit, reshuffle the shadow cabinet. And he's actually, I think, acted in the national interest on elements of COVID and the big debate around Ukraine, where we're all equally horrified in the West about what we're seeing unfold. So I think Keir Starmer's brought the Labour Party back to the table. It looks serious again, but to my mind, it's right not to get bogged down in a debate on Brexit, because it has happened. The next election will be about cost of living. Inflation is raging. It could go higher. We fear up to 10% perhaps. Brexit is a contributory factor. Do you talk about the politics of that? Very, very difficult to toxic, as you mentioned. Or do you talk about the economics of that, which is, if you feel poorer, you won't vote for the government, full stop.
Douglas Carswell, will the government's decision to process unlawful migration into the UK via Rwanda be a plus point for the Tories or a negative?
If they can make it work, it certainly will be a plus point. But I think there are huge complexities involved. I happen to know that part of the world quite well, and if they can get it to work, great. But there's a big question mark about how they're actually going to make it work. I don't think the government is going to lose any votes for trying to do something. Clearly, migration needs to be brought under control, and I think looking at creative solutions would be welcome. I imagine Labour would be pretty cautious about coming out very strongly against this if it looks like it might work. Remember what happened in Australia when the Conservatives looked like they were under pressure, or the Liberal parties they called in Australia were under pressure. They fought several elections by saying stop the boats. I think if the Conservatives came out strongly in a campaign saying they were going to stop the boats, and Labour opposed that and opposed the Rwanda approach, I think it would harm the Labour Party. But look, the fundamental issue that this election is going to be decided on is the standard of living. If you have 7 to 10% inflation, if you have young people unable to buy a home because we've been unable to fix the cartel housing system, if you have an economy which simply isn't working for large numbers of people because energy prices are impoverishing tens of millions of ordinary Britons, then frankly, you can debate all you want to about transgender issues, you can debate all you want to about Rwanda and refugees. You're simply not going to win an election unless you sort out the economy. I'm afraid to say, I don't think the Conservatives really know what they're doing economically. They're economically illiterate, and I think they will pay a very high price for that. You can't put up taxes, over-regulate, not take advantages of the trade arrangements that Brexit could bring, and expect the standard of living to go up. And there's no point, frankly, blaming other countries and saying many of these phenomena, international phenomena, it's you who's been in office for all these years presiding over an energy policy that is the disaster that it is. You've got to you either fix this very, very quickly, or you say hello to a long period in opposition.
Although I wonder if all three of you are underestimating the colossal staying power and stubborn popularity of Boris Johnson. Peter Edwards, can I briefly talk to you about the decision to process unlawful migration via the English Channel and actually send illegal immigrants to Rwanda? I know it's a policy that's gone down like a lead balloon within the leadership of the Labour Party. But according to a new poll by Savanta, 39% of Labour voters support this move.
Well, 39% isn't that many. I've travelled to Rwanda. I was lucky enough to go there. I love the country, but it's a country that still faces enormous hardship and division and lacks infrastructure. I'm incredibly fearful about what's happening. And although as a churchgoer, I don't at all want to bring the church into politics as you do in America, but do note what the Archbishop of Canterbury said today about how this was unconscionable and essentially a moral failure on part of the government. I think there's a moral issue, and I also think there's a competence issue.
Well, let's have a look at that. My brilliant colleague Tom Pollard has managed to source a screen grab of that poll. Let's take a look at it again. So the Rwanda deal is supported by 47%. That's almost half of the population of voters, opposed only by 26%. Labour voters support is at 39%. That's a colossal number of Labour voters, many of whom will be watching this show, Peter Edwards, who you've just dismissed.
I haven't dismissed them at all.
You said it's not many people.
Party, even if I don't always agree with them. The poll is very surprising, I'll give you that. It's not what we would have expected, and I think that's probably why it's going to be a news story. But let me just say, this terrible immigration policy has not begun. And I think, as with a lot of things the government's announced, when the detail of it, when the incompetence of it, and ultimately the cruelty of it is laid bare, I think the public view is going to settle to a very different set of figures. And I'd love to look at that poll again.
Contrarian Mark, I suspect that actually if the policy is made to work and it can be distilled down to a simple campaign slogan of stop the boats, and Labour comes out against it, I suspect it's one of the few things that will guarantee Boris Johnson another majority.
Paul Connew, closing thoughts.
I'm not surprised by that poll at all, although I agree with the Archbishop. But I think this plan was very much rushed out. The announcement was rushed out. It's half-baked at the moment. It's facing huge challenges both in Parliament and in the courts, domestically and internationally. And if it doesn't work, and I think the odds are that it won't work, then it'll boomerang. So I think to count on it is folly. And I think the public, many of them, can actually see this was another diversionary tactic to divert the focus from Partygate and the cost of living crisis. And I think that Boris Johnson shouldn't rely on this one, because people will see through it, unless it works spectacularly well, and I don't see that happening.
Great to have all three of you on the show, all good friends of mine from different parts of my life and career. Great to see all of you again, and I hope you'll be joining us in the studio in a timely manner. Peter Edwards, former editor of Labour List, regular panellist on the show. Paul Connew, legendary journalist, former editor of the Sunday Mirror. And Douglas Carswell, co-founder of Vote Leave, former Conservative MP, now working as an academic in the United States. What do you think? Are you happy with the Rwanda deal? Do you think Boris can bounce back? Has he got your vote? Or would you vote Labour? Would Keir Starmer make a great Prime Minister? If you're a Brexit supporter, will you forgive Labour for their position on Brexit at the last election? Let me know. It's all about your opinions. Mark at gbnews.uk. Don't forget, we've got my amazing Mark Meets guest live in the studio, radio and TV legend Neil Fox, known, of course, as Dr. Fox. He was on Pop Idol. He's been on the radio for decades, and he'll tell his amazing story at 10 o'clock. Plus, we got some fantastic alternative news headlines. It's a bumper Easter special. Nicole Kidman is mentioned, Prince Harry, and many others. You won't want to miss that. And it's Selfie Sunday, so get those selfies in. mark@gbnews.uk. I want to see you. I want to get to know you better. If you're enjoying the show, then tell your friends, tell your family, and let's change the world together. My brilliant panel and Calvin Robinson are next.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Great to have you back. We've got a fascinating conversation coming up. Should the church stay out of politics? But it's Selfie Sunday, so let's have a look at some of your wonderful selfies that you've been sending in. This is Claire. Oh, Claire, what a glass of wine. And you are so distinguished. I love that scarf, which I've got no doubt is silk. What an elegant lady. How about Clive? Oh, my goodness. He's got his hand on a bird and everything. Congratulations, Clive.
He looks like that member of the House of Lords. Do you remember him from Longleat?
Oh, yes, the wonderful aristocrat.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a very top-class audience, let me tell you. Blue-blooded. And how about Dominic? Here's Dominic. Dominic, what a winning smile.
That's my older brother.
Is it really?
That is my...
No way.
I'm not joking.
Dominic Walker?
Yeah, that is Dominic Walker. Can you see my dad's Greek and my mum's Irish?
Gorgeous, yeah, what a lovely mix.
There we go. Look, which one's him?
Sinking his teeth into an Easter egg. Dominic, thank you so much for that.
I can't believe that.
I can't.
Well, we've got, of course, plenty of viral videos in all of our shows now, and we thought we'd stick with adorable Easter bunnies tonight, as it's Easter. And how better to bring them to you alongside one of the most iconic sportsmen of all times. Take it away, David Beckham. What's up, Doc? What's up, Bex? Brilliant stuff. Well, look, let's tackle the big stories of the day now in our news agenda. And let's start with this. Boris Johnson's plans to send illegal migrants to Rwanda goes against Christian values, according to the Archbishop of Canterbury. The Most Reverend Justin Welby used his Easter sermon to criticise Downing Street after the government announced that refugees who reach the UK by illicit means will be given a one-way ticket to East Africa. The Archbishop said that serious ethical questions and cannot stand the judgment of God or carry the weight of our national responsibility as a country formed by Christian values. So does the Archbishop have a point, or should the Church stay out of politics? We'll bring my panel into this very shortly, but first, let's speak to a very good friend of mine, GB News presenter, journalist and a practising Christian who has been training for ordination at St Stephen's College in Oxford, but whose ordination has been blocked by bishops as a result of his conservative views. Calvin, great to see you. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, Mark. Thank you for starting with that.
Should the church stay out of politics?
It's a difficult question. First of all, I'd say no, because the church should be speaking up for the sanctity of marriage, the sanctity of life, Christian values in this Christian country. But on the other hand, I would say, yes, they should stay out of politics when it comes to party politics. You know, Easter is the holiest day of the year. The Archbishop should be using this day to tell people about Christ, to tell people that he died on a cross for our sins so that we may live forever. What they shouldn't do is use it to criticise conservative government policy. And that's what's happened today. You know, whether the archbishops like the policy or not is none of our business, quite frankly, but to be shifting our religion, to be shifting scripture in order to use Christianity as a way of shutting down the conservatives is highly inappropriate. And I would say that's quite immoral.
Is shipping illegal immigrants to Rwanda ungodly?
In what way is it ungodly? All this is doing is saying, look, we're going to stop people dying crossing the channel. We're going to stop people smugglers exploiting people. We're going to stop sex abuse and exploitation, all the horrible things that go on. We're going to put an end to that, and we're going to get a nice processing centre in a very civilized and economically strong country of Rwanda. That's a very good thing. To say it's ungodly is kind of suggesting that to send people to Rwanda is a bad thing. But we're not even sending them there permanently. We're sending them in there to be processed, to find out whether they have a legitimate claim to refugee status in the United Kingdom or not. And hopefully that will serve as a deterrent to prevent a lot of the illegal immigration that's happening across the channel at the moment. And it will save lives, it will help people and help them in their lives. How could that possibly be ungodly? I think what he meant is, I don't like it. And that's fair enough. He's okay to dislike government policies. What he's not okay to do is to use the church, to use his status in the church to criticise the government.
Is the Church of England institutionally left-wing? Is it institutionally woke?
Absolutely. So one of the reasons that they've cancelled my ordination is because I don't believe that this country is institutionally racist. I've had a whole class of middle-class white bishops tell me, no, it is Calvin, you're wrong on this. And I'm like, well, I thought my personal experience would count for something here. We're all about lived experiences now, aren't we? But apparently no, only if it's the right type of experience. Now, I would suggest there's still racism in this country. It still needs to be stumped out, but that does not make this a racist country or an institutionally racist country. And the church will go out there and say, yes, it is. The Archbishop of Canterbury has said that. The Bishop of London has said that. And they have no evidence to back this up. In fact, independent reports do not find any evidence of institutional racism in this country. So I think it's outrageous for them to suggest it is. So yes, I would say the church itself is institutionally woke, left-wing, liberal left-wing, and it's got this moral superiority complex that is not rooted in scripture anymore, and that is going to be the downfall of the Church of England.
It would be a colossal waste of your talents and of your spiritual and intellectual leadership if you were not able to be ordained as a priest in the Church of England. In fact, I think if you got the gig, I would be tempted to convert myself just to hear your sermons. Let me tell you, I'm your number one fan, although my Roman Catholic mother will not be happy at that suggestion I've just made. Let's bring my panel into this. Daniela Westbrook, Francine Lewis, and also Andre Walker. And Daniela, should the church stay out of politics? What do you think?
You know, I'm not too sure. I mean, it's difficult. Any country in the world, there's always, you know, the church has a big say in every country. America, you know, especially in Europe. It's very difficult. For me, I'm not a huge fan of the Church of England because it is a man-made church and religion, you know, made by King Henry VIII so he could get a divorce and get married again. So for me, you know, you're either Church of England. When people say I'm Church of England, I'm just so, okay, so you're Christian? You know, what are you? You know, to me, it's not really,
I'd say you're
not
almost right there, Daniela. I don't think it was made up by Henry VIII. It was a split from Rome, and there was
he was given it. Yeah, he was given the okay to do it.
Brexit. Because Rome
he was given the okay to do it.
Rome became corrupt. Rome became very political, and we said we want to stick with the faith, and that's what Anglicanism is, or what it's supposed to be. It's about not going down the hyper-political route.
I understand what you're saying, but I just think where religion and politics are concerned, it's pretty much sometimes one and the same because, you know, most of our wars and everything, basically, they say it's about oil and this, that, and a lot of it's about religion and race and stuff like that. And, you know, we put it down to blaming somebody else for it. But for me, particularly, I think the church does their thing, and we should listen to the church a bit more in this country as well. You know, a lot of people don't even go to church anymore in this country, which I think is sad.
Briefly, Calvin, the church, and many churches, not just the Church of England, didn't cover themselves in glory by closing their doors to parishioners during the course of the pandemic when they were needed most.
I know this is another reason that I'm not getting ordained, because I spoke out about this and I probably shouldn't have done, but I can't, for my integrity's sake, I can't bite my tongue when I see something go wrong. And I saw that the churches closed their doors. The government didn't say that churches had to close their doors. The Church of England went above and beyond and closed their doors to people in a time when I think we probably needed them more than ever, more than we have in our living history anyway. We denied people access to the sacraments, which is, if you're a Catholic, is it's evil, because people need access to God. But it also denied people access to God's house. And even if you're not religious at all, the church is the hub of a parish, the hub of a community. It keeps people together, or it should do. And to close your doors to that people says, you are not welcome here anymore, we are not here for you. And that is a great sadness that I can't even get over to this day. And I think we should never, ever allow any government or any church leaders to do that ever again.
Of course, Francine, I agree with Calvin when he says that the church should speak out on moral issues, even if they dovetail with political issues. But the actual politicisation of the Church of England, I think, is a concern, as Calvin has described it, institutionally woke. And the point is that it's a bad idea for priests to be divisive politically, because then they're going to split the congregation. Don't you think, Francine?
To be honest, I think the Archbishop of Canterbury should not be criticising get involved in politics or migration, personally. I think, at the end of the day, politicians aren't getting involved with any of his religious, sermons or whatever. I just feel he shouldn't be interfering. That's my, opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean,
he should be interfering.
He's raised a lot of people's ire, hasn't he, Andre Walker?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was very pleased to read Justin Welby saying today that he was going to move asylum seekers into his new £27 million library in Lambeth Palace. And he was also saying that he was going to remove the Church of England's tax exemption status so they can pay like everybody else for asylum seekers. Oh dear, he didn't say either of those things, did he? What annoys me is these people, picked by the government, by the way, and I think that's part of the Church of England's problem, these people constantly rant on about the fact that I'm being unfair, I'm being nasty to these asylum seekers. They're all tax exempt. They all live in these grace and favour piles. £27 million personal library. The guy's a joke.
Let me recommend Calvin's amazing programme, All About Easter, which went out today, and you can catch it on our GB News app. It's called The Meaning of Easter. You can also see it on GB News not on Twitter, on YouTube. That's right. The Meaning of Easter with Calvin Robinson. Calvin, we love your work, and I'm sure that common sense will prevail and you will be ordained in good time. And thank you so much for joining us. Can't wait to see you back on Dan Wootton's show and Nana as well at the weekend. Lots more to come after this. I'll be meeting radio and TV legend Dr. Fox, Neil Fox, plus alternative headlines, another game show and more from my amazing panel. Would you trust men to take the contraceptive pill? See you shortly.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Really excited, I should say, about the next hour of the show. We've got a radio and TV legend in the studio with us. Neil Fox, Dr. Fox, is live and taking your questions. Mark at gbnews.uk. We'll talk about his career in broadcasting, the future of radio, the music charts, the music industry, working with Simon Cowell, so much to get through. Plus, more alternative news headlines and in the news agenda with my amazing panel. Can men be trusted to take the contraceptive pill? So much to get through, but first, the headlines with Miranda.
Thanks, Mark. Good evening. The top stories from the GB newsroom. A cabinet minister has responded to criticism from the Archbishop of Canterbury over government plans to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. The leader of the Church of England, Justin Welby, said the proposals raised serious ethical questions. However, Brexit Opportunities Minister Jacob Rees-Mogg says the deal will help protect migrants from people traffickers and the dangerous journey across the Channel. In his Easter sermon, the Archbishop of Canterbury said the plans are the opposite of the nature of God.
And this season is also why there are such serious ethical questions about sending asylum seekers overseas. The details are for politics and politicians. The principle must stand the judgment of God, and it cannot.
Ukrainian soldiers have appeared to defy a Russian ultimatum to surrender in the besieged city of Mariupol. Elsewhere in the country, shelling in Ukraine's second biggest city, Kharkiv, has left 5 people dead and 13 injured. Moscow claims the steelworks is now the only area of Mariupol not under its control. A 64-year-old woman has become the first person to be convicted over the Just Stop Oil protests. Catherine McLean admitted aggravated trespass for her part in blockading a fuel depot in Thurrock last Wednesday. She was ordered to pay £409 in fines and costs at Chelmsford Magistrates Court. 2 other defendants denied the charges and were remanded into custody. So far, 23 people have been charged. Police are investigating after an unverified video appears to show Nicola Sturgeon breaching Scotland's COVID laws. The First Minister is seen apparently not wearing a mask during a visit to a barber's in South Lanarkshire yesterday. A spokesman for the SNP says Miss Sturgeon accidentally entered the shop without a face covering before putting one on. Police Scotland say they've received a complaint which is currently being assessed. And the Queen's grandchildren and great-grandchildren have attended the annual Easter Sunday service. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge led members of the royal family to St George's Chapel in Windsor, joined by 2 of their children. The Queen, who turns 96 on Thursday and who's been experiencing mobility issues, didn't attend today, but it's thought she's spent the day surrounded by family. Well, on TV, online and DAB Plus radio. This is GB News. Straight back now to Mark.
So many emails coming in on a range of topics, including our last conversation about whether the church should stay out of politics. Well, we talked about how the church has closed its doors to the public in the course of the pandemic. This from Patricia. Hi, Mark. My husband passed on the 12th of June 2020. At his funeral in July, the vicar would not open the church, but we had 8 round the grave and it was personal and private. He was sorry, but the rules came from the Archbishop's office. On Labour, will you vote Labour at the next election? Could Keir Starmer be our next Prime Minister? Mark says, top of the evening, Mark. Until Sir Keir Starmer can answer that ever so complicated question of biology, can a woman have a penis, he will never get the keys to number 10. Great show, as always, Governor. Ciao for now. Well, thank you, Mark, for that. On Boris and on the next election, Brenda says, hi, Mark. Boris has done his best since he came to office. I dread to think what Labour would have put us through regarding COVID. Labour is against its own citizens. They care more about illegal immigrants than our own people. Boris might have made mistakes, but at least he loves his own country. He has my vote. What do you think? Mark at gbnews.uk. It is Easter Sunday and it's Selfie Sunday. I've been asking for you to send in pictures of your good selves because I want to get to know you better. This is Zachary. Oh, what a handsome devil. And is that a Toon Army top he's wearing? Tom, you'll know you're very good on sport. Sheffield Wednesday. Gosh, apologies for swearing at you like that, Zachary. What a lovely, handsome man you are. Great hair as well. Look at that. I've got such stylish viewers. Matthew and Sylvie. Oh, I see Sylvie's the little cat. Gorgeous. What a couple. What a pair. And Shin. Let's have a look at Shin. Shin's enjoying the Easter eggs. Shin, thank you so much for watching the show. I think you've got a guitar there and everything. It's all happening around at your place. Thank you for that. Keep them coming, Mark at gbnews.uk. In just 2 minutes, radio and TV legend Neil Fox. It's time now for my alternative news headlines, and congratulations to former Labour frontbencher Diane Abbott, who looks set to have a park named after her after a London Labour council consider changing its current name of William Gladstone Park as part of a slavery review. Great news for this legendary politician, and it's a big park. She actually did the measurements herself. It's 180 metres by 270. 230 by 17. No, wait, it's 3,000 metres times 100 miles. Let me get back to you on that one. Yesterday, we brought you the shocking news that the Hollywood actress Nicole Kidman has had all of her hair chopped off. It's now in a short bob. Well, we've managed to secure some more exclusive images of her new hairdo. Here she is beforehand. Wonderful flowing locks. What a natural beauty. And here she is after. Tomorrow, tomorrow, I love ya. Tomorrow. Shocking news this week. An ex-soldier called Chloe Thompson reportedly exposed her penis and used a wheelie bin as a sex toy in public. That's right, she exposed her penis and used a wheelie bin as a sex toy in public. My God, women are just so badly behaved these days. Girls, please get your house in order. It's very unladylike. Back to lovely Nicole Kidman and that haircut. Here she is before the chop. What an absolutely stunning lady. And here she is after. Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Traffic news now. You're going to love this story. Police in Derbyshire had to deal this week with an overturned lorry which spilled hundreds of biscuits onto the road. Oh, crumbs. The driver had trouble digesting the news. He went ginger nuts. He tried to slow down his wagon wheels, and it's now vanilla crunch time for his career. His boss is a nice guy, but was disgusted creamed by his behaviour. It all happened on a party ring road, and other drivers affected were harsh, saying, what a hobnob. The driver's name is a Mr. Rich T. Sorry, that last one takes the biscuit. This joke's repeating on me. Back to Nicole Kidman now, and that hair. Here she is beforehand. I mean, what stunning movie star looks she's got. And here she is afterwards. Scary stuff. Before makeup, eh? Former Tory Cabinet Minister Robert Jenrick is in the news. What a good egg he is. The widely liked politician has won admirers everywhere for becoming the first MP to host a family of refugees from Ukraine. It's thought that many other politicians are now considering offering a room in their homes as well, including Welsh First Minister Mark Drakeford. He's considering making that offer. Although Ukrainian refugees have said, no, that's all right, we'll stay in Kiev, thanks anyway. Kidman and that hair, here she is beforehand. I mean, Hollywood star quality, the X Factor, and here she is afterwards. Oh, flower of Scotland. Big-hearted newlyweds Brooklyn Beckham and his lovely wife Nicole Peltz have made headlines. They interrupted their multi-million-dollar wedding in the States to stress how worried they are about the Ukrainian situation. That's right, they're really worried about the Ukrainian situation. I've got to say I'm humbled. These two could be great world leaders, just like Harry and Meghan. Insiders have told this programme that it's not the only major issue the couple are worried about. Apparently, they're also concerned about global warming. They're worried about bushfires, concerned about that. Male pattern baldness is a concern. The Northern Ireland Protocol has kept Brooklyn up at night. Erectile dysfunction, that doesn't keep many people up at night, does it? Kim Jong-un's weight loss journey is a concern. I mean, what's he going to do? Cut the carbs? Calorie deficit? Sovereign debt in the West is another concern of theirs. They paused the wedding for that one. The new series of the Kardashians on Disney, will it work? The plight of the Badgers. And last but not least, they're worried about Tottenham's chances of top four. What an own goal. Let's take one last look at Nicole Kidman and her new look hairstyle, I should say. She's an absolute beauty. Here she is before her trip to the hairdressers. I mean, just born to be on the big screen, I think you'll agree. And here she is after, and I've got to say, this is a total nightmare. Her scariest look so far. Royal stuff. That's a ginger nut, if ever I saw one. And those are your alternative news headlines. It's time now for Mark Meets, in which I speak to the biggest names in the world of politics, sports, showbiz and beyond. The name Neil Fox is shorthand for the very essence of a consummate radio broadcaster. And I actually mean that. Someone seemingly born to be on the national airwaves. Neil Fox, variously known over the years as Dr. Fox and Foxy, began his career in front of a microphone at the University of Bath's radio station. And the rest, as they say, is history. Neil went into local radio in the early 80s, learning his craft, before joining Capital Radio during a golden era for that network, which famously boasted Chris Tarrant as the breakfast show host, with Neil bookending the schedule as the king of the drive time show from 4 till 7. As well as that, Neil was the face and voice of the Pepsi chart, which ultimately overtook the official Top 40 show on BBC Radio 1. No mean feat. Neil's done plenty of telly too, famously starring as a judge on Pop Idol, alongside Simon Cowell, Pete Waterman and Nicky Chapman. Neil continues to broadcast on the national airwaves, obviously, hosting the hit breakfast show Fox's Morning Surgery every Monday to Friday on Nation Radio, which is, I've got to say, a great listen. Neil Fox, welcome to GB News.
Thank you very much, and it's very nice to be here on a Sunday night.
Look, thanks for coming out. What are you missing? You should be with the family eating Easter eggs and...
Actually, it's quite a nice break from when I left the house this evening. My eldest daughter and youngest daughter, so 20 and 15, were watching High School Musical 3, so it was actually quite nice to get out of the house, although I do think they're great films.
Well, yeah, of course they are. But look, it's great to have you. Their loss is our gain. What is it about radio that seduced you?
Gosh, someone once said to me, radio's a bit like having a mistress. You know, you might want to try and give it up, but it's going to be very difficult to. And I think at the time I remember thinking, what a load of crap. But to be fair, it's something about it. It's, you know, with TV, it's very much a sit down, watch the TV screen. You don't have it on as you're wandering around the house. I think the beauty of radio's always been that... We're there doing our thing while you're living your life, and we become part of people's lives. You choose a radio station almost like it's a friend, like it has a personality, because all stations, you know, they have like their own personality. And I suppose you tune in because you like having that friend on the radio, whoever the DJ, you know, may be. And I think there's something about, you could be getting up in the morning at your most vulnerable time, or in the car, having a bath or having a shower or doing your homework. Wherever you are, radio can just be there. Or it used to be there. I mean, it still is to a certain extent, but things clearly, like everything in our sort of technologically changing world, is changing for radio, I would say.
Well, yeah, and of course people can now put playlists on their phone, they can choose their own music. Do you think we'll still have radio in 100 years' time?
I think it will. I think it will always exist because it's a wonderful, free, easy, cheap medium. But I do think it'll have to change to exist, particularly to keep younger audiences. So, my kids who are 20 down to 15, they don't listen to the radio.
Yeah.
I think stations like Capital or Kiss or, pop music stations that were always doing the top 40, that was the staple as you grew up. Where'd you get your music? If you can't afford to go and buy music, well, you can't buy it anywhere now. You either stream it, but radio was always there just to hear your favourite songs. Well, now they kind of go, why would I do that when I've got Spotify? $7.99 for every song that's ever made.
And you hosted a chart show when the charts really mattered.
Yeah, I mean, look, gosh, as a kid growing up, I listened to people like Tony Blackburn and what have you, doing sort of the Sunday afternoon top 40 on Radio 1.
Fluff Freeman.
Yeah, those sort of legendary DJs with amazing voices and that amazing radio sound that it had. I ended up being lucky enough to take it over in '93. We ended up with a brilliant sponsor, Pepsi, who wanted to do fun things with music. So it was a really nice fit of a show with a really good sponsor. And we just had a lot of fun. Radio 1 were always doing 40, 39, 38. They were sort of just counting down the songs.
Yeah.
And we decided, I guess like you guys here, there are lots of other channels doing news. So you can't do the same thing. You have to offer something different, maybe entertaining. So we tried to do an entertaining top 40.
But I really miss the days. I mean, maybe I sound like an old duffer, but I miss the days when the charts really mattered and when we eagerly anticipated who would be announced as number one on a Sunday night.
Yeah, I agree. And I genuinely think that actually radio bosses now have cocked up by not actually paying attention to charts and making it important. Because if you do a really good show and put the money and, in a way, sort of let people know you think this is important, they will think it's important. If you don't, they won't either. And I know that the charts don't exist in the same way. We don't rush out and buy records anymore. But, kids growing up and adults who have grown up in the sort of pop era, anyone under 80 has grown up with Elvis and everything that's come since. They're interested in music, so if you create people love countdowns, whatever the countdown may be. So create a very entertaining countdown.
Exactly.
They'll listen.
That's
whatever
right.
it is, whether it's, the top 10, top 10s on bank holidays have always done well. Countdowns of any form, the top 10 movies, the top 10 reality shows, or whatever. People like countdowns.
But also, I mean, if you're an artist and your song is the most streamed, OK, you're not making much money, but it's still an accolade, isn't it? And deserves recognition.
Yeah, and that's, I think the one thing we always found, say, when we were doing the Pepsi chart was these artists who were getting to number one, maybe it was the first time they'd ever got to number one. And we wanted to speak to them and go, how do you feel today? Because you probably were a kid who had a dream, who picked up an instrument or sang in front of the mirror. You finally got a song and it's number one on the charts. Yeah. However that number one is, however it's been worked out, you're number one and you're chuffed as hell and you want to celebrate. And so it was always nice to talk to them. And however big the stars were, I mean, literally, and they may have had, 5, 10 or more number ones, big stars still got excited about being number one, particularly the big stars, actually, because they suddenly realised they were still maybe relevant with a younger audience. So they all want to be number one.
Well, yeah, and what was an amazing moment in your career is you'd gone from being the king of music radio, and then you launched what would become a huge cultural phenomenon, which is those sort of talent contests, a singing competition on TV. I mean, I know back in the day we had Opportunity Knocks, but Pop Idol really was the template for Britain's Got Talent, X Factor, and all of those other shows, and you were one of the judges. I mean, did you have any idea you were on the precipice of something big?
We thought it could be entertaining, because... and
it was brilliant, by the way.
It was a really entertaining show. And again, you have to remember that tech played an important part in that being successful. The tech being that you could now vote from home. And that was the way of, instead of writing on a postcard, which you did to Huey Green and Opportunity Knocks, what you did was you could actually go bing, 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 it was like being the gladiator. You suddenly were sitting at home, you were the audience in the amphitheatre going, should he live or should they die? And that's what you were doing with your telephone. And it was very amazing for everyone. Hence, people really got involved because they drove it. We were sitting there having a say, but we didn't decide who stayed or went.
Nicky Chapman, Pete Waterman, legendary record producer, of course, and Simon Cowell. Whatever happened to him, by the way? Is he still working?
Well, apparently so, yeah. And falling off his motorbike a lot, it seems.
Poor chap, I know. I do worry about him and his cycling adventures. But, well, I mean, he's a different beast to the one you worked with all those years ago, I would have thought.
Yeah, look, Simon, I knew Simon long before we did Pop Idol, and that's how...
Just as a record label man?
Yeah, and a brilliant record label man. I think he really was and is. He has the ability, Simon, and this was the annoying thing, to be fair, if you're being really honest, when you look back at Idol. Although Pete had a great view, Nicky had a great view, I had some interesting views, really annoyingly, the audience just wanted to hear what Simon said in the end, because he 99% of the time just got it right. He has that ability to know what the public like.
Yeah.
And it didn't always have to be credible. You know, he was the man that put out Zig and Zag on record, and Robson and Jerome, and you know,
who made a fortune.
Absolutely,
so I think sold millions of records.
They did, and Simon just thought I think this could be successful. I'll put it out. I'm not worried about the credibility. I don't want the coolest band in the world. Let's just see what sells. And he was bloody good at doing it. He was.
What kind of guy is he? Because, I mean, you probably know the real Simon, because if you met Simon now, you know, it's a construct, isn't it? A phenomenon. But who was the guy you knew back in the day, probably calling you and plugging his records to get on your shows?
Simon was always great fun, very honest, as he always was on TV. He knew what he wanted to get, and I think Simon would probably be happy if he was watching this now. If I said Simon's main interest was Simon.
Right. Yeah.
Being successful. Yeah. And he's been pretty good at it.
Yeah, too right. Well, what do you think about the future of those music programmes, so those singing competitions, the X Factor, should that come back? Or have we had overkill, do you think?
Well, I definitely think there was overkill. I mean, God, how many times can you watch bad singers sing to a certain extent? And a few good ones every now and again. I mean, but the bad singers, what drove those programmes. You know,
the freak show element, without being unkind.
Let me say, instead of freak, maybe
car crash.
Good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, and
that's better.
But we loved it because people would turn up with their dreams, and you know, and we at home could go, oh my God, they're dreadful.
Yeah.
And everyone, they're dreadful.
And the trick with those people is not to actually abuse them or mock them or kick them when they're down, but just give them a platform, and if it's a bit amusing, then so be it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, look, no one forces anyone to come on any of those shows. So I think we realised pretty soon on, though, in the first series, that you had to be very careful with people, but particularly when it became so big. There's an element of these people do not understand the business. They're coming into a massive show. And, of course, as soon as you're booted out of those shows, that literally is it. No one cares. No one gives a monkeys anymore. So, and I think that was pretty hard, particularly when you got down to the last 10 and they were all these live shows and going to live events. And sort of for that moment, they were stars, in inverted commas, until you were booted out. And then literally Monday you'd go and do, I don't know, GMTV or whatever it was. And then that was it, off. And then we've got the 9 left, the 8 left. And I think that was quite hard for people to stomach. Yeah. So I think after that we said, we've got to make sure we look after these people when they're kicked out, because otherwise it's a bit of a hard fall for them.
Tell me about the challenge of interviewing some of the biggest stars in music. You must have had everyone in your studio.
I think I've been very lucky, and I have interviewed massive stars. Like anything, you got to do your prep, haven't you? I mean, if I turned up to a show and no one, if you knew nothing about me and you literally, I think that's just rude. And I think a lot of that with stars, if you turn up and you clearly know their music, you've done your research, most of them, I never found the superstars to be anything apart from charming and smart. Some of the worst ones were the up-and-coming ones who are a pain in the arse.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Are they the ones who sort of already think they're the big cheese? Or what's the issue with the up-and-comers?
I think some of them were... I think they believed the hype.
Right.
Okay, and there's a lot of hype around new artists, of course, because that's part of the sell, creating this sort of whirlwind of excitement when a new artist appears. And I think as long as you don't believe it all and realise it's a bit of the marketing, as soon as you do believe it, that's the problem. But the big stars, I never had a problem. They were always fantastic.
Modern music's a bit rubbish, isn't it?
I don't think that's right. I mean, I think there are some amazing artists around nowadays. Ed Sheeran, Dua Lipa, Olivia Rodrigo. I mean, there's a... Look,
are they up there with the Beatles, the Stones, Elton,
well, I think
Led Zeppelin?
The difficulty is everything is slightly derivative now, isn't it? Because you go back to Elvis and Little Richard, and then you get the Beatles and the Stones and Zepp and everything else. It was the first time we'd ever heard that kind of music. But now an awful lot is, if those were your heroes when you were growing up, it's pretty hard not to be slightly influenced by them. So what is new now? Is there a new sound out there? But there are still great artists, I think, making really great songs. I mean, some of the stuff that my kids are listening to is brilliant.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's what you play in the morning, a variety of tunes on Nation Radio. Tell me about Nation Radio, a very exciting project.
Well, Nation is a small radio station. It's a small part of a network called Nation Broadcasting. And actually, we've assembled a really good team of, jocks, some of which were in that, you mentioned the sort of Capital heyday, in that sort of late 80s, 90s, where it sort of dominated, people like Russ Williams, Neil Francis and other people.
All brilliant pros.
Yeah, really good and nothing to prove, really good broadcasters. And we're actually allowed, rather like here, you can talk and you can have some fun and hopefully be entertaining. I think a lot of radio's become very sanitised. A lot of radio's terrified clearly of streaming. It's kind of managing decline. Streaming's there, just I can have what I like when I like with no ads and no one talking rubbish in between. So I think what they've tended to do is sort of stifle their broadcasters. Right, just play another hit, play another hit.
They give them about 20 seconds for some forced banter.
About whatever else.
And normally plugging the programme's sponsorship ad nauseum. It's not all great, is it?
I think you have to sort of go, if people are listening to you, they need to be entertained. Like this, comedy headlines, whatever it may be. They need some entertainment in life. Because if I want music, I've got Spotify or Apple Music. If I want some entertainment that's a mix of a bit of music and a bit of chat and a bit of stuff, whatever stuff may be, hopefully that's what we're still doing.
And I'll give you, Ed Sheeran and Adele, many others, great artists. I'm pleased to say many of them great British stars. I'd love to know the percentage footprint that we have in world music, but it's probably substantial, I would have thought, in terms of record sales.
I think it still is. I think we still are, for our little island, we've always punched way above our weight when it comes to music and entertainment.
Yeah, which is remarkable. But do you think the commercialisation of music is killing it as a genre? I mean, that's my main concern. You do have your Ed Sheerans, but then I hear a lot of stuff. My kids play me other bands, and they all sound like Ed Sheeran. And the female artists sound like they're trying to be Adele. Yeah. And that sounds to me like commercial pressure, rather than back in the day when bands could just create their own sound.
Well, I think I'm going to say you're being slightly delusional in the nicest way.
Not for the first time.
No, exactly. And I'm sure people are nodding in the gallery going, gosh, you've sussed this guy straight up.
You've obviously met them.
Was, if you go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, whenever, the only bands we really remember were the really big ones. But at the time, there were bands trying to sound like the Beatles, bands trying to sound like the Stones, because it was selling. So record agents, record companies were going, hey, try and sound a bit like that guy, because that's what's hot at the moment. I don't think that's ever changed. It's always been the music business. It's always been a business. Putting records out is not cheap. Doing videos is not cheap. So they have to generate money. It's not a charity.
Have you got tomorrow off?
No, I'm on tomorrow morning.
You're not?
I'm on tomorrow morning, 6 until 10.
A pro. Look, I'll be listening, because I'm always up early on a Monday.
Good man.
So it's Nation Radio, and the show is once again called...
It's called Dr. Fox's Morning Surgery.
We should clear this up. Are you a medical doctor?
No.
Damn, I was hoping you'd be examining me during the ad break. The amazing Neil Fox, what a treat to have you on the show. Neil, do come back and see us soon. Fantastic to meet you in the flesh, having heard you for so many years. Lots more to come. We've got our news agenda plus another great British game show. Can men be trusted to take a contraceptive pill? We'll discuss that with my amazing panel next.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Lots of people are saying that they are former Labour voters. They will not vote Labour at the next election. That was the topic of our big question. Could Labour win the next election? Arthur says, could someone please buy Keir Starmer a dictionary that goes beyond PA for party and gets to PL for plans and PO for policies, as he needs to learn the meaning of these two words urgently. Mask lunacy. Sandra responding to my big opinion monologue, which you can now rewatch on Twitter at GB News. Hi, Mark. Masks on beaches. Then have a listen to this one. I happened to glance out of my window the other day, only to see my neighbour taking the bins out wearing a mask. Because I live alone, I've been careful during the pandemic. But if this isn't lunacy, what is? Sandra, thank you so much for that, and a happy Easter. So many of you commenting on that. And they are coming in thick and fast, as are your selfies. It is Selfie Sunday, and let's have a look at some of the amazing photos you've sent in. This is Romy. Romy, thank you for that. The ultimate Easter bunny. Look at those ears. Are they your own, or are you the victim of plastic surgery? Romy, thank you for that. And I'm loving the... Is that a chicken, folks?
No.
Well, it's plucking beautiful. Andre, next. And it's a very fine-looking man with a very, very fine hound on his lap.
Lovely Pomeranian.
You've got some gorgeous... What is that breed?
Pomeranian.
Is it Pomeranian? That's
that
really... He looks English to me.
Is that fellow Andre?
It is a fellow Andre, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a rather fancy name, Andre, isn't it? And how about Nicola?
Hey, come on, Nicola.
Here comes Nicola.
Oh, look at that.
Nicola, what a spread. And you've got the ears as well, and a lovely smile.
She is living the dream, isn't she?
She really is.
Living the dream.
Thank you so much for those.
ecstatic.
Exactly. Well, look, I'd love to come round. I'd love to be at that table. Nicola, thank you for that. Thanks for all of your wonderful selfies. In fact, I met a couple in Kent. Tom, see if you can grab that picture later in the show. A fantastic couple. I just popped down to the seaside at Whitstable. And I've got to say, everywhere I go, I meet fans of GB News. I meet wonderful viewers to this show. You're always very kind in what you say about what we're doing at GB News. All I can say is thank you. We couldn't do it without you, and do spread the word. Well, let's crack on now with our news agenda in the company of my amazing panel. Daniela Westbrook, of course, Andre Walker and Francine Lewis. Scientists have developed a male non-hormonal contraceptive pill that receiving promising results from animal trials. This in turn lays the ground for clinical trials to see if it's effective in human males. So here's the question, now that we've got through that. Could we trust men to take the male contraceptive pill? Daniela.
I think you can trust a man to do anything. You can trust a guy to do anything, but I don't really think it's their job to do it. Is it? I think it's a woman's job. We're the ones...
Why? But isn't that a bit sexist?
Well, maybe I am sexist. I just think there's certain things that's done for a woman, there's certain things for a man. I just think, why would a guy want to go out and take the pill?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, women have done it for decades, haven't they? And I guess in the early stages of the pill in the 60s, been a bit of a guinea pig as to what this actually does to your body. And the pill is not great for all women, is it? So
No,
why shouldn't men do some of that heavy lifting?
Well, I can't see a man having a coil fitted, personally. So, I think...
No.
I don't know, I just think it's sort of something that girls do, and you get to a certain age and they go on the pill and stuff like that. It's like, it's sort of part of our heritage, what we do.
Is it also because it's the girl, the female, that has to deal with it if she gets pregnant? Is that the ultimate thing? The ultimate burden of responsibility is the baby grows in you, not him.
It does, and also a lot of women use contraceptive. A lot of doctors give contraceptive for very heavy periods, stuff like that. So guys don't really get that. So could it just not mess guys, levels?
I think she's going to have to be careful saying that men don't get periods. Keir Starmer's going to have a go at you for that.
Oh, I don't.
Because it could be anything.
I'm not married to him.
Daniela, what about condoms and things like that? Would you trust men to use condoms, or do you think actually?
I'm too old to know about that sort of stuff. I don't do that sort of thing anymore.
Andre will show you after the show.
Really?
He's got a banana. He did GCSE biology.
Really, they can show me with a banana, but
very good.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you think that in all aspects of birth prevention or pregnancy prevention that the burden falls on women?
No, I don't think it does. I mean, I've got a 26-year-old son, and I remember when he did years and years ago, like nearly 10 years ago, when he did a season out in Spain, in Magaluf, he was out there, and I went to visit them all, and they had a great big a bowl of condoms on the table.
It's amazing.
On the coffee table, so that everybody always had, there was all guys living together. They all knew what to do.
What season were they doing in Magaluf? What was he
They
doing?
were working in the bars and things like that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That
so
sounds
he
fun.
speaks Spanish, so he went out and did that when he was that.
I bet he learnt more than Spanish.
I'm not too sure. I wouldn't want to know he's my baby.
Exactly. I just meant snorkeling, really.
He learned how to drink a lot of beer.
He had his head underwater for a few hours.
Hang on.
Careful. Listen, by the way, that one doing exactly, you're right. Save me from myself, will you? By the way, I love the outfit tonight. I didn't know you were in the Salvation Army.
Look, I'm sorry. Can I tell you something? I was at the Boar's Head in St Helens last night. By the way, Tony Kay, Britain's best Gary Barlow impersonator, is a GB News fan. We've got to get him on.
Oh, thank you, Tony. I'd love to have Tony on the show.
And my sister-in-law, Stephanie's a big fan of this show. But the point is, to get back today, I took a 6-hour coach journey.
Crazy.
It wasn't that much fun. Armpit in the face and all that sort of thing. I wasn't wearing a suit.
Well, listen, hook me up with that man. He sounds like an
absolute He's superb.
Can I jump in here
Please,
and just discuss the whole men concept?
You want to get back to the subject?
Yes, because I have very strong views on
Men
this.
can't multitask.
I've got very strong views on this. I actually think it's a great thing for men to use the contraceptive pill, only because there are some women that can't be on the pill. So it would be great for a man to be able to use contraceptive, and also not only for women to protect ourselves. What about the men? What about the women who do fall pregnant and sometimes trap the man?
I've got a friend of mine that's happened to lately, but what about this? What about if a guy just turns around and doesn't want to use a condom, because then we're going to sexual transmission?
But this is what I was just going to come to.
I can't get you pregnant.
This is what I was going to come to as well. You cannot trust that. I mean, just because a man says he's on the pill, or just because a woman says she's on the pill, just because they both say they're on the pill means nothing. We still have to make our decision that they should be using condoms because of all the sexual transmitted diseases. So it's not something that I think people should use lightly. If a man just says, "Oh, I'm on the pill," and we should trust that. I just think it's good for a man to have the option as well and the freedom of choice, because it's their bodies as well as women.
Also, don't you think, Daniela, that women would be attracted to a man who says, "I'd rather that I took the pill so you don't have to put your body through that hormonal roller coaster"? That would be very charming, wouldn't it?
If you're in a relationship, that's wonderful if someone's going to do that. But do we know if it can make you infertile later on, or what can you...
But isn't that... I mean, wouldn't that have been a fear that women would have had in the 60s when the pill came out? But I guess you feel like years on it's not a concern. I mean, is the pill sexist?
I think it is. Personally, I think it is, because as I said, for women, yes, it's our bodies, we have to give the birth, we have to grow the babies. It's very easy for a man to walk away. But what about the women that do trap men who don't want babies when she does? So I think it's nice to be able to have the choice. Women don't all want to take contraceptive.
And it's not always the side that runs away either.
But I feel that Daniela's point really was that it's about women being able to take control of their own lives. And so, because you're the person that's going to end up being pregnant and effectively bringing up the child, you're the person who should be in charge.
Definitely, but I think a man should have the choice.
I think he should have the choice, but I think it's like, it's always on a man's back to bring in contraceptive. To have condoms on him and things like that as well. So.
Oh, I don't know. You've never been to Wigan, have you?
Well, listen, I will, absolute full disclosure, say, because Andre and I, we're really good pals and known each other a long time, and we're both very pro-male contraception. We both use our personalities to stop babies from happening.
Mark, I just want to ask one question.
And this hair.
What would happen with men having the pill? Could it make their boobs swell? Could it make them...
I've been on it for years, my dear. On it for years. There we go.
I would be
Look at those.
To know
If it happens, then don't wear that jumper is what I would say.
I'll lend you my top.
I'm only putting your leg. We wouldn't change.
Oh, I think this jumper's all right.
It's gorgeous.
I don't know what.
It's gorgeous.
It's from a company called Bench. That's meant to be
You're obviously
your muscles.
You're obviously in the
relaxed muscles.
You're in the naval reserves, and thank you for defending our country. Jennifer Aniston has revealed that she's been suffering from insomnia since the age of 30, which I believe is about 80 years ago.
Oh, my gosh.
And she claims that the more she worries about insomnia, the harder it is to fall asleep. She's clearly done well for herself. The question is, how important is sleep? And has it become a disposable luxury in our modern society? Andre, I don't think we take sleep seriously enough. I don't think any of us get enough.
Well,
do you get enough?
No. Well, it
depends. Are you getting any?
What is your problem? Right, we were trying to be polite. We were trying to be polite in front of them too. Westbrook hasn't heard anything this bad in years, right?
Yeah. And she's been in the square.
Yeah, that's
That was 30 years ago.
That's right.
Just...
Boom, 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 boom.
I would have done a dot, but she's not with us anymore.
Don't do it. It's brilliant.
Oh, I say. Oh, no, it's a handbag. Oh, just the thoughts give me down, Mark. And cause me eyes are playing up.
I like your Barbara Windsor as well. I know they're all dead, but come on. Oh, please, come on.
I want you awful darlings.
Oh, my gosh, give me goosebumps.
Unbelievable. What's amazing, these incredible voices, you knew all of these people.
Yes.
I do, yeah, that's how old I am.
Oh, my God, listen, you're still a baby.
Who was your favourite of all those old-timers in EastEnders?
Oh, God, it's hard to say. There's so many good people.
Who did you hate? No, I'm joking.
There's so many. No, let's back to sleep anyway. She needs to try meditation. That's what I have terrible problems with sleep, and I have to meditate every single night. Put a meditation on, find something to fall asleep to.
Can you
get older? It's even harder.
Can you get to sleep after these shows? Because I find because you've had the adrenaline of doing a TV show, I only get to bed at maybe 3 a.m.
Yeah, I mean
this
happens to people that work unusual hours. Is when they get home they can't just go to sleep necessarily, I mean the point is, I think, Francine, that it's a big aspect of health.
Yeah.
Getting enough sleep.
Definitely.
And a lot of people have got stressful jobs and careers. They've got kids. Some people have got 2, 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And sleep is considered something that, you can kind of cut back on, but I don't think it is.
No, definitely not. We need to sleep. We really do, for our health reasons, for so many... I mean, I'm an overthinker, I have to say. That's when I get into bed, I'm about to go to sleep, and I'll be thinking, oh, God, I didn't put the rubbish out tonight, or I've got to do the dishwasher in the morning. I'm an overthinker, so I do what Daniela does. I actually meditate. I put meditation, it's about overthinking and...
Yeah, sleep-guided meditation.
Yeah, guided, and it's amazing. You deep breathe.
Do you know why? It's the same thing, because when I went to hospital about these operations, and he said to me, how'd you sleep? And I was like, what's that got to do with my surgery? And he was like, sleep is really important for making your body to reproduce yourselves and for your body to relax.
It is.
Then one of the most biggest health issues is caused from lack of sleep.
Yeah.
And a lot of people
particularly with children.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare with children. They can't concentrate at school. Exam results go through the floor.
I mean, kids
playing computer games
they
all
need
night.
9 or 10 hours. Adults need a good, 7, 8, 9.
17.
How do you sleep at night, Andre?
What? Right, I'm not.
No, I mean, how do you do it?
What is wrong with you? Just because I'm a supporter of the Conservative Party at a time like this. No, actually, I'll tell you something. It is difficult because, like with today, I'll probably only get to sleep at about 3, but I'm back up at 5 to do the breakfast show, and it just.
How do you do that?
But what I do is.
Are you on the GB News breakfast show?
Of course course I am. Me and Eamon coming up after it, Mr. Motivator.
Leave the impressions to me.
Well, I'm joking. I might get up early to watch that. Why don't you stay here?
Do you know what? I got
sleep on the couch.
Do you know what? I got really, really drunk at Cheltenham with Eamon Holmes, and I said, I've been wanting to do this all day, and then I did my coming up after it, Mr. Motivator. He just looked bemused.
I didn't realise he was from Jamaica, but each to their own, isn't it?
I'm sorry, that's my best impression as well.
Brilliant stuff. Well, look, what's the plan? Are we going to do a break, or should we go to our next chat?
I love him.
OK, brilliant stuff. Well, look, we're really excited because after this, we've got a great British game show. We're going to get you at home and our panel to guess the expensive works of art. What is their value? But next up, we've got another fascinating conversation. It's in our news agenda. What is it, Tom? M&S! There you go. Listen, what we're going to do is we're going to ask, does Britain still love M&S? See you in 2.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Those alarms on you.
How can I not read this email? And the header is Mark Dolan is sexy.
Oh, let's read that.
Never had an email like that
Thanks,
before.
Mum.
Wow.
Hi, Mark. Dear Mark, I don't know why you're always doing yourself down. I think you come across as a lovely man and quite sexy. I can imagine you being quite fun in the bedroom. If Mrs. Dolan ever gives you a hard time, brackets, pun not intended, just show her this email. Mary, not only will I print this email out, I'm going to get a tattoo of it inscribed onto my arm. This is lovely. Look, thank you so much for that. Sleeping. This is from Tom, who says, I had insomnia in 2020. It is debilitating. I could give loads of advice, but above all, you can address it. I got to the point of bursting into tears because I became frightened of trying to sleep. Buy a book and get a routine. Do not rely on drugs. Tom, what brilliant advice, and thank you so much for that. I like this email from Declan, who says, Dear Mark, how exactly does male contraception work? I mean, does it give you a beer gut and a bald head? Nicely done. Oh, there you go. OK, how about this on masks on the beach? Alice says, Mark, can you beat this one? I live near Happy Mount Park in Morecambe. I was doing my gardening when I saw a guy dressed like a soldier, but he had a gas mask on. Scary. Alice, thank you for
I used to work for the MP for Morecambe. I know that park very well.
Nice part of the world.
So that's the whole story. Sorry about that.
Brilliant stuff. It is the tail end of Selfie Sunday, so let's have a look at some more of your brilliant selfies. Apologies if we didn't get to all of them. So grateful to those of you who sent them in. What we'll do next Sunday, we'll catch up on any we missed, but this is Lewis.
Oh, he's
hello,
gorgeous.
Lewis. And he's been very modest with his egg consumption. Mine would be gone by now. Deborah. Oh, Deborah, and watching the show. I think that was our debate about Labour. I wonder whether the cat is a Labour voter. Simon and Caroline. Oh, what a lovely couple, winning smiles. And the only thing that spoiled it is me in the background.
He's definitely...
Actually, I shouldn't say that. Mary won't like that because that's doing myself down, isn't it?
Yeah.
Apparently I'm quite sexy. Let's talk about this. I think it matters to everyone in Britain. It seems as though... Oh, we got any more pictures or not?
Yes, the Kent.
Oh.
The Kent couple.
Well, yeah, is that coming? Oh, brilliant. Oh, I'm very excited.
Oh, that's
I was in Whitstable and I met Clive. I've got their names written down. Clive and, because I better get this right, Sue. Clive and Sue, what a charming couple. We had a nice chat as well. And it's a very nice part of the world. And they've got a very fancy Saab convertible. And they enjoy GBNews.
It's brilliant seeing the viewers when you go wandering around, isn't it?
Love it, love it, love it. Well, look, let's crack on with our next story. And it seems as though our beloved Marks and Spencer may be in a spot of bother after it was revealed that two of the world's most major investors, BlackRock and Marshall Wace, have begun shorting its stock, effectively betting against it on the market. So is this a direct result of the pandemic, or is Britain falling out of love with this iconic retailer? Do you still go to M&S? Do you trust them? The food, the socks, the underwear? Let me know, mark@gbnews.uk. Francine, does Britain still love M&S?
Oh, totally. I absolutely will not shop anywhere but M&S. My husband goes nuts because everything is more expensive, but everything's better.
Do you mean the food?
Yes, you pay for what you get. And M&S, their quality of food, everything from M&S is perfect. And I hope I get an endorsement after this.
Peppa Pig, Colin the Caterpillar.
Everything.
Amazing meat, fruit, veg.
Everything.
Booze. I love their Belgian beer.
Oh, no, do you know what? I love their cheeses.
The cheeses are very nice.
Great. I know that. Yeah, I love them.
But what about the clothes, though, ladies? Because they're only going to survive if you go and buy their fancy garments.
I don't buy my underwear there anymore. But
you don't get to buy your undies at M&S?
I did used to when I was younger, but I don't anymore.
Where does Daniela Westbrook buy her underwear?
Yeah, we want to know.
Do you want to know where I buy my underwear?
Go for it.
Well,
Victoria's Secret
or Primark.
Where?
Victoria's Secret or Primark, because they technically both come from the same factory, just different labels.
Wow. So when you're feeling a bit flush, you go to Victoria's Secret, and when you're feeling...
I haven't been there for years because I haven't got, I'm not got a boyfriend like that at home, so I don't need to. I just go to Primark, but it comes from the same factory.
Amazing.
It's just different labels.
Wouldn't surprise me. Does Britain still love M&S?
Do you know something? I live in just one of the poshest streets in the world, and I get an Asda delivery. I'm the only person, but I get it under the cover of darkness.
Bringing the street down.
Yeah, that's right. Literally, Daniel Craig lived across the road from me, and I used to get Asda to come and do all my deliveries.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I think Mark's is nice, but I mean, like you said, your husband would go mad at you. That's probably why I got divorced. The worst place to go if you're hungry.
Yeah.
Because you buy it, it all goes out of date
It's a
within 2 days.
disaster.
It does all go out of date within 2 days.
Yeah, of course.
Short sell by date, but everybody normally goes to a supermarket, but M&S is nice for special.
If their meats are better, their packaging's nicer. I buy all my cleaning stuff from Tesco,
Do you know what I did? There's an M&S across the road. Christmas Eve, we were in here working, and I went and got all the discounted food.
They did
and I arrived literally
discounts.
bags like that.
They did the most amazing discounts.
What a cheap panel I've got, I tell you. I thought they were classy. You. Apologies, everyone. Well, look, I do love M&S, and I think everything from underwear to socks to slacks to those lovely chunky winter jumpers are the best. I do hope they survive because it's a great British brand, just like John Lewis. Last week, it was revealed that a long-lost sketch by Michelangelo is expected to fetch 30 million euros. That's right, 30 million euros at auction in Paris next month, after the French state failed in its attempts to acquire it. Lol. Well, that got us to thinking here at Mark Dolan tonight. How well can my panel and you at home guess the value of a piece of art after seeing a picture of it? So let's play a game of How Much Art Thou Worth? That's right. How much art thou worth? Well done, Will Groom. And here's your first piece of art. How much is this worth? Let me tell you what it is. It is called a Concetto Spaziale e Tese. It's by Lucio Fontano, who's an Italian. That won't surprise you. What do you think it's worth? Is it a few hundred thousand, a million, 10 million?
I think 1.3 million.
1.3.
Higher
or lower?
I'm going for lower.
I'm going for a little bit more.
OK, what are you thinking, Daniela, about?
About 2.8, 3.2.
2.8, 3.2?
I'm going for about 800,000.
I beg your pardon?
800,000.
Well, look, you and Andre are very close, but I think he's just edged it because it's 1.1 million.
Oh, yes.
Very, very close.
Sorry, not
there.
yes. I mean, look like Freddy Krueger.
How about this? Crypto punk.
My son will kill me.
Now, I can tell you it's astonishingly in the millions. It's called an NFT, which is like a digital currency.
Oh, it's this non-fungible thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
12 million.
It is 3.36 million. How about the Scream by Edvard Munch? Let's have a look at this. How much is this worth?
Oh, this is good. This is very famous.
Let's lose the scrap. There you go. We need to. There you go.
That's famous. That's like 10 million.
You're going 10?
18.
18?
I'm going to go about 15.
91.
Oh,
91 million pounds.
Wow.
The Rev, but Picasso. Picasso, of course, one of the most famous artists in the world.
That.
Now, don't forget, Munch was 91 million.
Oh, this has got to be like 80 million.
This has got
118, 118 million pounds.
Wow.
How about the Badger Boys by Ian Stewart?
Oh, that's rubbish.
140. 140. How about the World Wide Web source code, NFT? That's right, it's the original code of the internet. Couple of quid, £20?
100.
4.1 million.
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
And last but not least, Van Gogh.
Oh, God.
Priceless.
250 million.
Some would say priceless. It's 72.4, although I'd say and the rest. Thanks to my amazing panel and to my team and to you for watching at home. I'll be back next Friday at 9 o'clock. Let's have a look at our last selfie. It's my amazing team. The very best in the business. Dream team. It's been a busy weekend. I'll see you on Friday at 9. Stick around. I'm doing headliners next.
Hello there. I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting